one of the things I would like to bring up is that pretty much the concept of mental health. And I have two minds about that. The one is we do need to pay particular attention to mental health. There is no doubt about that. However, at the same time, part of me wishes very much that it was simplified to being a matter of health. It's part of the body. It needs to be integrated as part of our existence, not separated as a different issue. What I mean by that, you will see as I talk that many times I try to get us to view things more along the lines of it's another aspect of our being. What I mean by that is if I were to have a problem with my stomach, I would contact my local physician or whoever it is that I accept care from and deal with any kind of problem with my stomach. The same would be true if I injured my knee or if I injured any other portion of my body. I would find the appropriate way for me to take care of that. When it comes to an organ in the body called the brain, it becomes a different thing. We become quite frightened, very concerned. There's a lot of stereotypes that come about, a lot of anxiety about where this might go. But in reality, it is another organ in the body. And to maintain the health of that organ and all organs, we have what I call the big three. The big three consists of nutrition, exercise, and nutrition doesn't mean eating perfectly. I don't think anyone can. Nutrition means making sure we can attain a balance of what we need to sustain the functions of the body, to allow the body, including the brain, to work in the way it should. Exercise is a major portion, and it doesn't have to be going to a gymnasium. It doesn't have to be intensified. There is research that shows a 20-minute walk 3 times a week for people dealing with either depression or anxiety lowers their symptoms by 20%. That's incredibly powerful to know that going for a walk 3 days a week for 20 minutes can be as effective as some of the medications that are available. So we need to look at these forms of exercise to maintain the entire balance in the body. We also need to exercise our mind. Sometimes we do that by writing. We do it by musical expression. We can do it by almost like games. There are certain games we can do, even if we like to go online. The game of Sudoku, it challenges us mathematically to work with things. That keeps the mind healthier. And if we want to maintain health, we have to do these kinds of exercises. We exercise the biceps and the leg muscles and the like so we can be strong. We exercise all aspects of the body, of the spirit and of the mind. When I reference the mind, that's the one part of mental health that's a little bit different. Because for years, we humans have interchanged the words brain and mind, when actually there's a very, very large difference. The brain, as I said, is a physical organ of the body. Some people need and may opt for having surgery done on their mind. Some may opt for and actually take pharmaceutical treatments to deal with what is going on in the brain. The mind, not so much, because the brain is not physical. You cannot touch it. You can't weigh it. It is a combination of experiences, emotions that we've had through life that are with us and that stay with us. And we make decisions based on it. And our functioning in life are based on what the mind brings us to. One of the most amazing things is that the brain itself creates the mind, because our brain starts absorbing these different memories and experiences. And so we develop the mind as we grow over the first 20, 25 years of life. Then we have this collection of experiences to work from. One of the things we rarely do is take an inventory of those things we've collected and make a decision which ones are beneficial for me, which ones may be a big problem. I may need to change some, I may need to get rid of some. This is all under the idea of being mentally healthy. Take a look at what it is I believe in. Where do I get my strength to exist as a human being? I've been a believer my whole career. Religion is most likely the most powerful strength we have to deal with any kind of change that might need to occur. When we have the strength of conviction, the belief in the concepts of a particular religion, a particular faith, we're going to do so much better. There is research that verifies this as well. It isn't just concepts. There's solid research, scientific research been done that proves, as they somewhat generically phrase it, prayer works. So we need to be able to exercise all these aspects to keep ourselves mentally healthy. Most of us do pretty well. We go through life with things in balance. We all carry some anxiety about things that might have happened in life. We may have some, hopefully very mild degree of depression about sadnesses that have occurred in our life. But we can reach a point where both the depressive, whether it be thoughts or feelings, and the anxiety can go over the top. And we don't really know what it's all about with a pandemic, because it has never happened during the lifetime of any of us living right now. We don't have a playbook to turn to. We don't have a set of recipes that answer it. So we need to be working on this as we go. And the basic thing that will stay factual is that we need to maintain these forms of exercise, the nutrition that's necessary, and the sleep and rest is the third component of what I call the big three. If we find ourselves pushing too hard, not getting enough sleep, it's going to change our mood. We've all experienced it. We've all seen it in others. So we need to be able to set some structure for ourselves, because our structure has been taken away. So many of us either aren't working or we're working at home. You know, I have no problem with technology other than I'm not big on it. I don't know it well. But to be doing counseling on a regular basis with clients on Zoom or WhatsApp calls is quite different. I used to do it occasionally when someone was traveling, but now it's the mainstay. You know, there needs to be social distancing, et cetera, et cetera. So we need to adapt to the new things that come along and not get depressive or anxiety ridden over them. And to be able to maintain sleep so our attitude is appropriate, our behavior is appropriate, how we tend to ourselves, literally how we physically look. It's easy to set those things aside, but they're all part of mental health maintenance. You know, to set a structure and stay with it, to be able to get up at maybe not the exact time every day, but a reasonable time every day, get involved in our activities, bring as much normality back to us as we can, and have our morning functions of what we do, and hopefully have a meal with the family together to start the day and talk on a positive basis about what we're going to be able to get done today, what we look forward to, what we're going to enjoy. We need to be cautious we don't get into too much bemoaning the difficulties, because that will set the atmosphere around us in which we live. If we can bring the positivity, the realization that we're being guided, that things are going to work out one way or another. We don't know the answers, but we'll find them as we go. There comes the concept of faith. So important for the mental health maintenance. So we work on these kinds of things. We communicate with others. Some of the things we need to be able to do are things like writing. What I've suggested to so many people over the last 8 weeks, write a letter to coronavirus. I know that sounds very odd, but you can get so much emotion out. And it's something you can totally destroy once you do it. Don't do it on a computer, on a screen. Get good old paper and pen and sit down and write a letter what your feelings are about this bizarre virus that came at us sort of from nowhere and has altered almost every aspect of our life. And get those emotions out, vent them, deal with them. You know, we have an expert going to be talking about domestic violence and child abuse. And a lot of that's because of pent-up anger. We need to find ways to get that anger out. Anger, in my opinion, is clearly a God-given emotion. It's something we have. It's a motivator. Yet we need to watch what we do with it. We can use it to do good and correct things that need to be corrected. But we need to watch how in the world we're going about that. I don't know if this is to be a time for question and answer, or if we are intending to do that, or if I should continue with my presentation at this time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Terry. Going well so far. I've actually begun conceptualizing what my letter to coronavirus is going to sound like.
Yes.
So far on our Facebook feed, we do not have any questions just yet, and so this section has 16 minutes more, and so you can go for another 10, and then questions will be coming in.
Very good. Will do. Thank you. I just didn't know the timing if we were going to do that intermittently or not. But anyhow, yes, that writing is very, very valuable. Another powerful expression of emotion is music. How many people do sing? And singing is vitally important. We don't have to sing well. I don't have a voice that translates into beautiful singing, but I can sing. I can maybe play an instrument or even turn on some good music and enjoy it thoroughly. These are the kinds of expressions that, again, bring balance to us. Connection with our cultural heritage is incredibly important. Being aware of how our culture over the years, possibly over the decades, possibly over the centuries, have helped us deal with these kinds of things. All cultures have lived through times of incredible pain, incredible fear. And we need to look back on how our ancestors have been able to handle it, how we brought ourselves to the better points we're at now, because that's what we'll need to be able to bring to life to get us to move on into the better days ahead. Change is a challenge for everyone. And sometimes change can get so, quote, overwhelming that we think, I can't do this. I can't handle it. It's too much. My role as a parent has changed. My role as an employee at my business has changed. My role as a spouse has changed. Every role in my life has changed. And that is overwhelming. We need to be able to discuss that, whether it's with our life partner or whether it's with a pastor, or if it's with a counselor or therapist. We need to be able to talk to someone we trust completely who will not judge us. So talk about our fears, our depressive experiences, or maybe even thoughts. And to be able to work towards reframing things. It's a very powerful psychological concept to maintain our mental health. One really beautiful but difficult challenge is to reframe a crisis, to see it as opportunity. We're certainly living in a worldwide crisis right now. But the opportunity to start working together as brothers and sisters worldwide in how we help each other is so hugely important. It'll give us more comfort. It'll give us more strength to move forward. And I think we really need to stay aware of that, to not, even though we have to, quote, lock down or be involved in curfews, because of technology, if nothing else, we need to still be reaching out and touching each other. This kind of format right now is an important piece of that. And I think it's wonderful that this is going on. I can't tell you how touched I am to be invited to be a part of this, because it expands my awareness. I'm definitely part of the world, even though I can only go out on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that's a difficult concept, but here we are. And we're doing well. We have to feel good about the state of affairs here in the Cayman Islands when it comes to those statistics about how it's turning out. We are doing quite well. So to be able to look at the positives, to reframe it as opportunity, how I will be in the future, how I will be as a neighbor, how I will be as a professional in dealing with the aftermath some time from now, because there's going to be some, everything has it. We had immense learning at Hurricane Ivan and afterwards. And I've talked with people about the challenge of working with that PTSD we hear about, post-traumatic stress disorder. Throws mental health way out of balance, no doubt about it. It's about a major traumatic experience, possibly a life-threatening experience, that impacts us so severely that we carry it on into our life, maybe forever. And we need to be able to look at and deal with that, take care of it, take a treatment or do a treatment to bring the impact of it down. We are now living in something, I believe I've sort of invented this term, continual, ongoing traumatic stress disorder. Because people don't come online with me and have a therapy session and go back to their regular life for 7 days and come for another session. Now it's a matter of coming to me, we deal with them, look at it, and they step right back out into it. They have to put the mask back on. They have to put gloves on. They have to, it's all current. It's not something that happened in the past. So our challenges to rebuild that mental health is probably almost every hour. You need to be able to stop and say, it's so bizarre I have to do these things to go to the grocery store. But also be able to say, at least I can go to a grocery store. I have a grocery store I can go to. I have a tremendous amount of blessings in my life that make it more acceptable to deal with a pandemic. We have no experience. Our leaders have no experience. I believe strongly, we're all doing our absolute best. There may not be a right and wrong at this point, but there is definitely what's best. The ethical standard of what's best. And I believe if we stay with what's best, in all of our judgments, we're going to maintain mental health well. We have to realize we have to take care of ourselves with nutrition, with exercise, with sleep. And those are not selfish things. A good balanced meal, a good night's sleep, some form of exercise, they're fundamental. They're needed. And then the mind, to function with the mind, to do some writing, to do some music, to be able to connect spiritually with others of my faith. They're incredibly powerful and important and necessary items. But I know when we rub elbows, as they call it, with other positive people, as we're doing today, it rubs off. And we start feeling better, and we start absorbing their energy, and we can start getting a more positive attitude ourselves, and then carry that on to our neighbors, to the healthcare worker that we might talk to the person at the grocery store we deal with. We need to be bringing that. We don't get the opportunity of seeing a smile on people's faces when we're all wearing masks. So we have to bring the smile to our eyes, the warmth and closeness to a waved hand, not a shook hand. And that's how we will maintain mental health maintenance individually and collectively.
We have a question from Linford Pearson. I understand he's a good friend of yours.
I know
Dr. Pearson.
Hi, Terry.
Hello, Linford.
It's certainly good to hear you. You haven't lost your touch. I think it was back in 2006, 7 that you did such a wonderful job when I was doing my master's at counseling psychology. You were right there to help me get along with it. And today you touched on some of the very same subjects that you're touching on today, the 3 essentials of good health. You stressed that, which is nutrition, exercise, and sleep. What is your recommendation now for those individuals who may not be able to go to the gym for exercise? They can do, I know that from my point of view, I do quite a bit right around my own home. Would you also recommend that that be done? But before you get to answering that, I also would point out to the group that I didn't think that my friend there did a wonderful introduction of you, but I know you so well as a lecturer. And I wondered often where you got all the information for. Very rarely did I see you consult a book. So I used to tell my friends that you had an encyclopedic brain. You had it all there. But also, I remember you stressing on the 5 dynamics of health, which has to do with your physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual life. And I know that you used to stress the spiritual side. But today I wanted to find out your recommendation in regards to the 3 main essentials for health: nutrition, exercise, sleep, and your recommendation for exercising. And thank you, Terry, for your very good presentation.
Well, and I appreciate that. I love seeing your smile, no doubt about it. And I thank you sincerely for your warm words. And I assure you, especially at my age, I don't have an encyclopedium in my mind at all. The only way I can explain it, if I need to, is it's literally a gift that comes from somewhere, that it just becomes there. But one of the things you bring up that's so incredibly important is the idea of creativity. How do we get physical exercise? If I don't get to go to the gym and work out like I normally do, we need to think about, what do I do at the gym? Exactly what are the movements? How do I go about, whether it's machines that I'm working on or Stairmasters, that's an old version, but any of these different exercise physical mechanisms. I need to figure out how to do that here. I need to think about maybe putting on a backpack that has 15 paperback books in it and walking up and down my stairs for 10 minutes. That's a pretty powerful exercise, I guarantee you. Take a look at what can I do in the yard? What can I do in the garage if you happen to have a garage with things that maybe I do need to finally clean up the garage that I haven't done for a long time. And it'll be lifting a lot of boxes and being able to lift with my thighs as I'm supposed to and get that exercise. And maybe if I'm going to pick up a fairly heavy box, why not lift it 4 times and then put it where it belongs? So it takes the creative thinking to realize we can do a lot of these things at home. And the same is true with the spiritual aspect, with the creativity in dining. How do we provide newness? We not only nutritionally, but as far as enjoyment in life, we cannot eat the same thing 5 days a week. That just doesn't work. So we find ways to get more creative, to bring more flavors. And this, again, is a beautiful opportunity to exercise the cultural aspects of life. What did my grandparents and great-grandparents enjoy? And can I enjoy those as well?
Right, thank you very much, Terry. There's a question here from Joy Jordan, rather. It's coming from Facebook. She's saying that children who are now isolated at home are becoming more anxious and they are bored. So, what tips can you share with parents to help them to manage children during this time?
I'm sure it's been said and heard 1,000 times. The first thing I'd put out there is the concept of patience. Children don't have the intellectual capacity to fully understand what this word pandemic means and what's going on in the world. And so they are having their own reactions. And we need to have the patience to realize that, and to not be brief with them or to be too stern with them. One thing I think, again, the idea of creativity, find some new games, challenge them to create a game. Give them some materials, whether it's simple as paper and pencil, and say, how why don't you invent a game? You know, there's a game out here called trivia. What would your trivia be? I know you're 9 years old or whatever age you are. How would you ask questions for trivia competition? You know, be able to come up with some creative things. Get them creative in their physical exercise as well. They don't get to run as much. They don't get out on the playground at school with all their friends to yell and run and have all their energy, their, the pent up energy coming out of them. So help them find appropriate ways to deal with that, because they're feeling as lost as we are. A very key thing that I think is so important, it sounds almost too basic. We need to constantly remember children are not just short adults. Sometimes we expect too much of them. If we think of them as just short adults, we're going to have expectations that are too high. We're going to put questions to them that are too tough. And I think we really need to stop and question them. What is it they're bringing up? There's a very short, I think, very learning kind of story of a young boy, 8 years old, was having dinner with his mother and father. And he said, "Mother, Father, I need to ask, where did I come from?" And the parents became very concerned. They gave each other the look and they thought, boy, now we got to delve into a conversation that's so difficult. And to what extent and how do we didn't plan fully for that. And so they spent over an hour trying to detail all the aspects of God's gift of having a child. And when they finished, the father said, "Son, does that answer your question?" And he said, "Well, no, Father, actually, my friend Georgie at school said he's from France, and I just wondered where I come from." And I think the thing to learn from that is we don't need to put our thinking on their questions. We need to be able to ask them, what exactly do you need when you ask that? What are you looking for? So that we can give them exactly what it is they want to find out.